He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask where I'd go or how I'd finish school or if I had enough money for gas. He just stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching the movers carry out my boxes like they were clearing a guest room after checkout. My father, Russell Blake, had always been good at pretending things were normal, even when they weren't, even when his 18-year-old daughter was leaving home with nowhere else to go. The last thing he said to me was, "You're an adult now, Savannah. You'll figure it out." Then he turned back toward the kitchen, where Chase, his son, from a previous marriage, was bouncing his baby on his hip like a proud suburban dad. Emma, Chase's wife, stood beside him smiling like she hadn't just taken over a house that wasn't hers. The room that used to be mine, the one my mother painted soft gray before she got too sick to hold a brush, was now a nursery. The mural of clouds we once taped up together had been covered with vinyl stars. My name was gone from the door. In its place, a wooden sign that read, "Logan's Room." That's the baby's name. Logan, my half-brother's son. They said the guest room wasn't big enough for a crib, so they cleared out mine instead. I didn't argue. Not then, not anymore. My mother Diane passed away from ovarian cancer a year and a half ago. She was the soft one, the reason the house ever felt like home. After she died, Russell became all wall and no door. I stopped trying to knock. I walked to the car with 2 boxes and 1 photo frame, me and my mom on the porch summer before the diagnosis. She's laughing in it. I'm wearing overalls and braces. My grandmother Lois opened the passenger door without a word. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't have to. As we pulled away, I looked back once. No one was watching. No one waved. Just a house with new curtains, new laughter, new names on the walls. Before my mother got sick, the house felt like it belonged to both of us. She let me paint flowers on the baseboards in my room. She left notes in my lunch bag even in high school with small things like, "Don't let them dim your light." She always used my full name, Savannah, not kid, not her. But even then, I knew my father saw me differently. Russell Blake wasn't a cruel man. He just had no space for softness. And softness was what I was born with. He never hit me. He never yelled unless I cried too long or laughed too loud. Then it became, "You're too much. Tone it down. Don't be dramatic." He never said those things to Chase, his son, from his first marriage. Chase only visited every other weekend, then more often once he got older. By middle school, it felt like he lived with us full time. He was everything I wasn't: tall, athletic, charming, naturally likable. He got his first car at 17. I got told to take the bus. My mom used to say, "He's just trying to earn his father's love same as you." But I wasn't so sure. Chase didn't try. He didn't have to. He already had it. When Mom was still alive, she shielded me from the worst of it. She knew when I came home crying from school without needing to ask. She'd make tea, sit on the couch with me, and just stay there. She never forced the hurt to resolve. After her diagnosis, things got quieter. She lost weight fast, her voice slower. But the last thing she did before the first round of chemo was write me a letter. She slipped it under my bedroom door. On the envelope it said, "Open when it gets too loud." I didn't open it for almost a year. Not until after the funeral. Not until I caught Russell packing her scarves into a garbage bag. In the letter she wrote, "You are the quiet courage of this house. One day your kindness will outlast their noise. Don't wait for them to see it. Just be it." I folded it back up and placed it behind her photo in the frame I still carry. Russell never brought up her name after that. He replaced her kitchen towels, her tea mugs, her blanket on the couch. One afternoon I asked if we could keep the porch flowers she planted. He said, "They're annuals. They die." That's the point. That was how mourning looked in my house efficiency. Cut it out. Move on. Make space for what's next. Chase got married the spring after Mom passed. Emma, sweet and polite, didn't know what had happened here. They sent me a wedding invite with my name, misspelled Savannah. At the reception, I stood alone near the punch bowl while Russell gave a toast. He said, "Today, I'm proud to stand beside my son, my first, my best." He never looked in my direction. I never told him he said that out loud. It happened on a Thursday. I came home from school to find my bedroom door open. That wasn't normal. Russell never entered my space not to check, not to clean, not even to knock. Inside the closet was bare. My books were in boxes. The comforter my mom gave me had been folded not gently and laid across a chair in the hallway. My lamp was gone. So was the framed photo. I found it later tucked into a box labeled Misk, in someone else's handwriting. At the foot of my bed sat a plastic bin filled with baby items, soft toys, rolled onesies, a bottle warmer still in the box. I stood in the doorway like a guest who had arrived too early to a party that wasn't hers. Chase's voice came from down the hall light and amused. "The nursery's coming together." I didn't respond. That night, Russell sat me down not to ask but to inform. He said that Chase and Emma were moving in next week. The guest room would be theirs. My room would be for the baby. I asked why the nursery couldn't be in the guest room. He looked up from his phone and said, "Because you're almost an adult, Savannah. You're going to college soon. It's time to make space for a family that needs it." I don't remember what I said back. Maybe nothing. Maybe silence was the only answer that still felt mine. 2 days later, my bed was dismantled. No one told me where to sleep. I stayed at a friend's house that weekend, then packed what I could into the trunk of my car. There was no fight, no screaming match, just subtraction, quiet and surgical. A few nights before I left, I passed Chase in the hallway. He was carrying a bag of diapers and didn't stop walking. He nodded at me almost like a stranger might and said, "Thanks for making room." Not sorry, not I didn't know. Just thanks. It wasn't even my room anymore when I left. It just took me a while to realize I'd already been moved out one object at a time. Leaving didn't feel like escape. It felt like dissolving. I didn't announce it. There were no slammed doors or raised voices. Just an email to my principal requesting remote final exams. A call to my grandmother Lois asking if her offer still stood. She said yes before I finished the sentence. I packed my clothes, my textbooks, and the photo of my mother. That was all. The rest belonged to the version of me who used to think home was permanent. The morning I left, Chase was assembling a crib in what used to be my room. Emma stood nearby holding fabric swatches and sipping coffee from the mug that used to be my mother's. Russell was outside raking the front yard like he hadn't erased a person from his household the night before. No one stopped me. No one asked where I'd go. They had already made peace with the space I left behind. I moved into Lois's upstairs guest room, a modest space with a view of the neighbor's cornfield and a quilt that smelled faintly of cedar and lavender. She didn't ask for the whole story. She just made soup and set a folded towel at the end of the bed like she knew I'd need both. There was no drama, no ceremony, just stillness. For the first time in years, I woke up without tension behind my eyes. I finished my finals online and sent in my acceptance to Winthrop College, a mid-sized school 3 hours south. They'd offered me a STEM scholarship based on my early project portfolio. It felt strange having something of my own that no one could minimize or repurpose. I found a part-time job at a bakery in town early mornings, the smell of yeast and cinnamon small talk with regulars who called me sweetheart without knowing anything about me. Most nights I studied at the kitchen table with Lois humming in the next room and the television low in the background. I kept the photo frame on the windowsill. It caught the morning light in a way I hadn't seen before, like she was still watching from a distance, quietly reminding me that gentleness wasn't weakness and that silence didn't mean defeat. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't need to. No one called. I didn't disappear to punish them. I disappeared because I finally knew how to live without being seen. It had been 9 months since I'd walked out of that house. Long enough to grow new habits, new silences. Long enough to stop checking my phone even accidentally. So when the knock came on a Saturday afternoon in late spring, I didn't expect it to be them. I had just finished sweeping the porch when I saw the car. Russell's truck still dented on the side door from the winter. He skidded off the driveway and blamed the road instead of the ice. Chase stepped out first, wearing a pressed shirt that didn't match the sweat on his forehead. Russell followed slower, older than I remembered. Lois met them at the screen door before I did. She didn't raise her voice, just said, "She doesn't owe you a damn thing, but she's inside." I met them in the kitchen. They didn't sit. Russell looked around like he'd never seen laminate counters before. Chase stood near the window, his jaw tight, his hands shaking just enough to notice. Russell cleared his throat first. "We need your help," he said, as if he were asking me to pass a wrench, not rewrite a crime. He told me that Chase had been working at Granite Axis Freight, the logistics company run by Darren Monroe, a longtime friend of my mother's, someone she trusted enough to recommend when Russell was between jobs years ago. At first, it was small things. Company cards used for personal expenses. A few numbers moved around in quarterly reports. Nothing dramatic. Until someone in accounting noticed missing funds, thousands of dollars unaccounted for. Chase was caught. And because Russell had vouched for him, signed off on certain documents, they were both implicated. Darren hadn't pressed charges yet. He said he was holding off out of respect for my mother. But the silence wouldn't last. A decision had to be made by the end of the quarter. That's when they told me their plan. They wanted me to say the money had been wired to my education fund. That Chase and Russell had taken the money not for personal gain, but to help me attend Winthrop Cover Tuition Books housing. It was a story that could explain the transfers and buy them time. Russell said it could save their jobs, maybe keep the company from pursuing legal action. He said, "It's not lying if it's for family." I looked at Chase. He didn't meet my eyes. He only said, "You're the only one Darren would believe. He loved your mom." The room felt colder than it had 5 minutes earlier. I thought about my mother, her photo sitting in the next room, angled toward the light. I thought about the note she wrote me in the letter. "Don't wait for them to see it. Just be it." Russell stepped forward. "I know I've made mistakes. I know I've been hard. But this is different. We're talking jail time, Savannah." That was the first time he'd said my name in over a year. Lois came in and placed 2 glasses of water on the table. She didn't speak. She just put her hand on my shoulder and left again. I stood there unsure of whether to scream or laugh or cry. But I did none of it. I just said, "You want me to lie to protect you." Russell said, "We're not asking you to lie. We're asking you to help." I said nothing. Chase finally looked at me. His voice cracked. "If it were you in this position, I would have helped you." That's when I realized something. He actually believed that. They hadn't come to apologize. They'd come to collect. Because I was useful now. Because Darren liked me. Because I reminded him of someone they once needed too. They didn't leave right away. Russell paced the edge of the room like he was circling something too fragile to touch. He wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. His silence had always been the louder weapon. "I know I wasn't a great father," he said finally, "but I'm still your dad." I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because the words meant less now than they ever had. "I would have helped you," Chase said again, this time more softly, as if volume could create sincerity. "Your family, Savannah. You always have been." That line sat between us like a broken chair no one wanted to throw away. If I was always family, why did I have to leave with 2 boxes and no goodbye? Russell stepped closer. "I don't want to go to prison," he said. There was no apology in it. No ownership, just fear. Fear of consequences, not of conscience. They weren't there because they had finally seen me. They were there because someone else might, and that made me dangerous. For a moment, I wavered. Not because I believed them, but because I could still hear my mother's voice telling me to be kind, even when it hurt. She'd always believed people changed. She thought love could reach even the hardest places. She thought Russell would soften someday. She thought Chase would grow into himself, not away from everyone else. Maybe she still hoped they'd love me right after she was gone. And for a second, I wanted to believe it too. But hope without truth isn't love. It's just delay. I looked at them 2 men who once erased me without blinking and realized they weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for permission to stay clean, to avoid shame, to rewrite the record before anyone else could see it. They wanted me back, not to welcome me, but to cover their tracks. That wasn't family. That was fear dressed in memory. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse them. The truth had already done that for me. Instead, I stood still, hands resting on the edge of the counter, eyes on the photo of my mother in the next room. Her smile was small in that picture, almost private, like she'd been saving it just for me. Russell spoke again, voice low. "You'd let us go to jail for a grudge." The words sat in the air like rot. I turned to face him. "This isn't about a grudge," I said. This is about the truth, and I'm not erasing her to protect you." He didn't ask what I meant. He knew, because we both remembered who had introduced him to Darren, who vouched for him when no one else would, who believed in him until the very end. My mother. And now they wanted to use her memory to clean up their mess. Chase opened his mouth to speak, but I shook my head. "I won't lie," I said. "Not for you. Not for anyone." He looked away. Russell didn't. His eyes were glassy but not soft. "Just tired." "I didn't think you'd say no," he murmured. That stung more than I expected, because he hadn't come believing in my kindness. He'd come counting on it, and in some old part of me buried beneath the leaving and the silence I wanted to give it to him. But kindness without boundaries isn't grace. It's surrender. I walked them to the door. Russell paused on the porch hands in his jacket pockets. "She would have helped," he said. I didn't answer. Not because I disagreed, but because I finally understood my mother would have helped them out of love. But they weren't asking with love, only need. The screen door clicked shut behind them. Their footsteps faded down the steps. I didn't watch them leave. I went back inside and stood in the doorway of the guest room. The light from the window hit the photo frame just right. I was there. They just lived easier when I disappeared. 3 weeks later, I moved into my dorm at Winthrop. Lois helped me carry my boxes, mostly books, a kettle, a soft blanket that had once belonged to my mother. We didn't say much. She knew how to leave space without filling it. The room was small but bright, with a desk by the window and white walls still blank with possibility. I unpacked slowly. Textbooks, notebooks. A ceramic mug I'd painted in 10th grade chipped on one edge. In the frame. I placed it on the desk without thinking, like instinct. My mother, leaning into me, whined in her hair the summer she said I finally looked taller than her. I adjusted it slightly so it caught the light. There was no ceremony, no closure, just a new space that didn't ask me to shrink. Russell didn't call again. Chase didn't text. I didn't check. One morning I received an email from Darren Monroe, the CEO. He said he'd accepted their resignations. No police, no charges, but no more chances either. He closed with, "Your mother would be proud of who you're becoming." I stared at the screen for a long time, then closed the laptop. The air through the window was soft. Not warm, not cold, just enough. I sat on the edge of the bed and let it touch my face. No applause, no apology, just stillness. The photo stayed there quiet, full of light. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I signed my name on the dorm registry. Full name, no middle initial, no note, no explanation.